Hey everybody, Riot Mort here with another patch rundown. It's the patch 14.11 rundown. This patch, we decided to take it pretty light. We're not going to shift the meta pretty dramatically. People are still kind of figuring out how to play optimal lines, what makes the difference between them. We're seeing a pretty good amount of comps, so maybe some more adjustments in the future. But for now, it's a pretty small patch. So let's dive right into it and check it out. So first off, 8 Ghostly, not performing as well as something we would want to have with +2 spats. So 8 Ghostly is getting a buff from 32 to 36%. Cool. And then Trick Shot, yep, we're undoing the Trick Shot nerf. This nerf ended up being a little too much. It's making Kai'Sa too hard to play. Some of the Trick Shot builds, so this should help things like Teemo, Bard, and especially Kai'Sa come back to be as comparable as to things like Lilia and Ashe. So hopefully that helps Trick Shot out. Cool. On the champion side, Darius 1 and 2, very small nerf, really tiny. Hopefully this slows down early duelists a little bit. Excuse me. But yeah, bit of a small nerf for Darius is what it is. Garen, yep, we're undoing this buff as well. Storied champion, way too good. We do want Garen to be good without Storied champion, but like it is what it is. So undoing the 10 mana buff from last time. Yasuo. This looks like a buff, and it technically is, but it's a bit of a weird one. Yasuo was a weird champion that when he starred up, his spell didn't actually do more damage. So this is really just kind of fixing that oversight more than it is a massive buff or anything. I don't think this is going to make Yasuo reroll a thing, but yeah, it turns out his spell just wasn't doing more damage because it's based off of armor and MR, so fixing that. Gnar gets a little bit of a buff to his max stacks to help out some of the Dryad reroll comps. Try to get them up to that same level as things like that Ashe and Lilia comps that are doing well, or the Duelist comps. So hopefully helps him. Nautilus, very small mana nerf. Gonna slow that down. Should be a hit to both the Warden and the Mythic lines. 2 lines that are doing quite good. Again, really tiny here. Syndra. This one's a complicated one, so bear with me. If you want later, I can show you a graph. But basically what these numbers mean is 1 star, the first cast is nerfed, the second cast is slightly nerfed, and then third is fine, fourth and higher are higher. At 2 star, it's just a pure buff. The first cast is literally the same, and each one goes up by about 2%. So it is a buff to Syndra overall. It is meant to be a buff, but it's really minor. We're talking like 2-3%, and it doesn't take effect till multiple casts in. So, but it is not quite on the same level as back when her starting orbs were 8 or whatever, but yeah. All right, Lissandra. Lissandra definitely nerfed after we took away her throw, giving her a little bit more damage, try to get those kills. Don't think it's going to swing much, but it is a small Lissandra buff. On the item side, Cursed Blade. We finally fixed the bug with Cursed Blade, so our 20th artifact is coming online. 15% attack speed, 20 magic resist. Attacks reduce the target's max health by 3%. So if you're struggling with that Tom Kench, you can take that down. Should be good. Diamond Hands, best artifact in the game. It's going to lose 100 health. Cool. Moonstone Renewer, the best support item in the game, is going to lose 40 health on the shield. So the max shield goes from 400 to 360. Should make Moonstone Renewer a little bit less of an auto pick. Cool. Needlessly Big Gem. One of the worst support items, giving it a little bit more health to hopefully help that person survive. When it procs, should be more damage. Again, very minor stuff. On the augment side, Cybernetic Bulk and Uplink at all ranks will no longer appear on 2-1. I mean, realistically, these augments performed very poorly that early when you don't have many items, so those will appear later now. Built Different, definitely a victim of some of the 4-cost balancing here, so Built Different kind of get its last nerf undone. So the HP goes back up, the attack speed goes back up. Hopefully some Built Different builds should be playable. Grim Harvest will now give, instead of a Kha'Zix and a Kindred, a Kha'Zix and a Yone, and 1% more Omnivamp per stack. I don't think this is going to make it super playable, but it is technically better. Lucky Paws, definitely a little too good, but only a little, so the damage comes down a bit. 2 healthy, losing 9 health per 2 cost. It's getting to a low number there, kind of scaring me a bit. But Venerable Piggy Bank. This augment, if you can get it, is probably the best augment in the game. If you're in the position to get it, to the point where it was a little too much auto win. So we're taking 1 gold off the loss. So now instead of 2 for a win and 5 for a loss, it'll be 2 for a win and 4 for a loss. Still a lot of gold. Still a good augment. Prismatic augments. Dragon Lord Crown now gives a Janna and Diana. Matches the gold one now, so the prismatic doesn't look weird. Final Ascension no longer appears on 2-1. That's another augment you really shouldn't be taking on 2-1. And then Porcelain Crown now grants an Amumu instead of a Lux. Small buff to Porcelain Crown. On the small side, trying to get some of the 3-star champions to open up a little bit more reroll options here. Kha'Zix's reroll is actually doing okay, just maybe needs a small nudge. So Kha'Zix's reroll is going to get a little bit more damage on that spell. Sivir reroll is going to get some more ability buff and attack speed. So if you want to go Sivir 3, maybe open up some Storyweaver reroll. Should help Sivir a bit. Aatrox, a lot better after the buff from last patch, but still not quite amazing. Is going to get some more heal on the 2 and 3-star. So we'll see if Aatrox can start to be a thing a little bit. Probably not, but again, small buffs. And then Senna. Senna, you know, this buff is very tiny here. You can see 5% on the ability and 5% on the ability AD. But if you want to try reroll Senna, I know the ghostly version, maybe this brings it back a little bit. But again, a lot of really minor nudges this patch. Diana, same thing. Diana 3 gets some more ability damage reduction and on-hit damage. Yone, same thing. If you can hit that Yone 3, get that shield back up and some ability damage. And then Kayn undoing that health nerf a little bit. So 50 off, or 50 more health, help Kayn survive. And then some bug fixes. Big one here at the top. More Morellonomicon and Crest of Cinders, those are the Radiant versions, now burn for 2% like their tooltip says. It was burning for 3%. So if you wondered why these items were performing very well, these are big nerfs to Radiant Morello and Radiant Red buff. PvE monsters now have the intended 140% critical strike damage. Yay. Branching out no longer says after 0 player combats. Cool. Suspicious Trenchcoat copies now have the proper amount of HP and AD from their star level. This might actually end up as some of a buff in some situations. So hopefully not in the Bruiser situations, but hopefully might make this item quite good. Because, again, fixed various issues with the Trenchcoat copies' HP that could be inconsistent if they had their HP increased from other sources. So less, you know, Silas abuse and more other cool builds that might open up. Umbral will no longer fail to work if the player puts an Umbral emblem on a unit right before combat begins. Cool. Aurelia's ability now critically strikes at the correct rate. Sweet. IE should be good on her again. Yay. And start of game portals will no longer fail to work if a player leaves the voting area early. So for those of you who ever saw a nil portal, that was why, and that should be fixed. And there you go. It's a tiny patch. Decided to go pretty light this time. Live team wants to see how this changes things, give it more time to settle. Doesn't necessarily mean the next patch will be small either, but it is a small patch this time. So let us know what you think of these smaller patches. Again, that way things aren't changing radically. But again, give us the feedback. Let us know what you think. So there you go. All right. That's going to do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.